Crow is my absolute favorite brawler in Brawl Stars, and he was actually one of the first brawlers I ever unlocked before anybody else ever unlocked him, which was kind of crazy. I think he's the coolest looking brawler in the game. I think he's the most fun brawler in the game, and now he's one of the best brawlers in the game. But there was a period of time when he played completely differently. He was more of an actual assassin than he was a control brawler, and then there was a point in time when he was utterly useless for an entire year. So we're gonna go through Crow's entire history, but we're doing it a bit differently today. Usually I completely swipe the Sunny V2 style, but we're gonna sprinkle some nubstery into it, okay? So if you like Crow, then subscribe to the channel or he will slowing toxin you for the rest of your life. And if you want to support your boy, then just go into Brawl Stars shop, put in code nubs and profit, and now let's go. For some context of what it looked like to unlock Crow back then, we have a Lex video because I didn't record myself unlocking Crow, but Lex did, and he was so happy that he kissed his iPad. And ever since this moment, Crow has been his absolute favorite brawler. So let's watch the event unfold. He's opening a bunch of boxes, and then boom, Crow right there. So early on. And he kisses his iPad. It's just beautiful. What an intense moment. I think Lex and I were some of the first few hundred people ever to unlock Crow, which is kind of insane because he's both of our favorite brawlers. And for more context of the past, this is what it looked like to upgrade Crow back then. You can upgrade your brawler's health, attacks, and super damage individually, which was really, really weird. I still like that format. And then Lex goes in and takes Barley into Gemcraft for some reason. But this is how Crow's super used to work. So at first, he was actually a really trashy assassin because his super was really weird, but I still kind of like it. He still used to jump in the air, but it was very delayed, and I'm going to show you that right now. Watch what happens when Lex supers, all right? He's in a tight situation, he gets super by Primo. Look at how long he hangs in the air. That's a couple entire seconds. It's really, really weird how his super used to work. For some more context of Crow's past, I'm bringing up this really old video that I found on YouTube Shorts. It's kind of doo-doo quality, but watch how fast Crow gets his super, and watch how fast he can chain it. Watch this. He already got super. He hit like 2 full shots, and then boom, he lands on them. He gets another super immediately. This is why Crow used to be insane, because you could really assassinate people like this because you could just get your super over and over and over again. And again, it's still kind of weird how you hang in the air the whole time, but the fact that you can get his super that fast back then is crazy because, as you might know right now, it's one of the slowest supers in the entire game to charge up nowadays. It used to be completely different, so you can't really play with him like that anymore. Most of the time now, you can go in with your super, but you do not get it back, so you can't even like escape with it if you want to. That used to be my absolute favorite way to play Crow because it kind of felt like Edgar back then, but it was still a lot different. Now let's move on to the patch note side of things. So a lot of these things right here don't really matter that much. They're just slight stat changes, so we don't really need to mention them, but we can go through them really quickly anyways. Very early on in the game, Crow got a slight damage buff because apparently he was a little bit too weak at first, but then they nerfed his poison damage, so they kind of flip-flopped his damage because actually for a while Crow used to do really, really, really bad damage, but that changed over time. Another thing about Crow is that he used to have cracked out range. His range used to be much farther than it is now. It was basically a sniper. And here's one of many cases very early on in the game where they actually nerfed Crow's supercharge rate. So only a few months into the game's life, Crow's super got reworked. But I was one of few people who actually got to experience Crow's old super where you hover in the air. In December of 2017, Crow's super effects were reworked and he no longer hovered in the air forever, and instead they changed it to how it is today. For more context to that, I have a really, really old video of mine of me playing Phoenix Crow, and notice the fact that Phoenix Crow still looks exactly the same. This was made almost 5 years ago, and Phoenix Crow has not been changed whatsoever. This is why I'm really excited to see the skin get reworked, because as you probably know, the skins in this game are getting better and better over time. I think that Phoenix Crow is ugly nowadays. It used to be a pretty cool skin, but I still think his head is way too big here, and I'm genuinely excited to see this thing get reworked. But watch how the super works now. When I do it, I jump up and I jump back down, and that is how it is. Been like that for almost 5 years now. Then Crow's extra toxic star power was added, and extra toxic was just very good for keeping Crow and his teammates alive because it was one form of giving him more health, because one of his biggest issues was being really squishy. So it's kind of like a shield, but a little bit different because they have to be poisoned. Either way, it consistently reduces your enemy's damage, and that was really beneficial for him for the most part. Crow became a little bit too strong, so for one of many times, they nerfed Crow's supercharge. From here, they made it from 5 hits required to 6 hits, including poison, which whatever. And then they also nerfed the poison duration. I don't remember them doing that, but I probably knew it at the time. I just didn't remember. And then right here, it says that they nerfed Crow's super speed. I also don't really remember this one, but I'm curious about something. I wonder if in this video right here, maybe this was the faster speed. Like, I'm pretty sure it's like the flight speed. So Maybe that right there was like a little bit faster before they nerfed it. I think this might have been a result of the game going landscape, but they increased Crow's projectile size. They had to do that with a lot of characters when they changed it from portrait to landscape. Every brawler's movement speed was increased by 70 points, including Crow's. So this is probably the change with landscape. Everybody got changed here. And this is probably the rise before the fall, because he gets a ton of nerfs right here. They nerf his damage on his main attack and the poison itself. That also affects his super as well. So that's basically a triple nerf to his damage. And then they gave him a huge nerf right here. And I'm not even sure if they ever reverted this one because he's good now, but they made it take from 6 to 9 daggers to get his super. So back then, it was crazy. I'm pretty sure this clip right here is like before they nerfed it at all, because this is still in portrait. The rate that he gets a super is cracked. He gets it immediately. You could just jump on people, get it, jump around. It was so fun, but yeah, it will never be like this ever again. Only about a month later, they nerfed Crow's damage even more. So when Landscape first came out, he must have been really good. I don't exactly remember that part. I only remember him being bad for a while, but yeah, he just got a huge wall of nerfs right here, and this might be when he became bad for a really long time. Then finally, Phoenix Crow was added, which is a very outdated skin nowadays. It looks like this, and it looked like this 5 years ago. It has not received a single change besides the projectiles having some fire on it, and that's the only change that I know of. So this is a really outdated skin. It's still, I think, a legendary skin, so it's like 300 gems. We heard that it should be getting a remodel soon, so I hope that happens. So as you can see, we had the wall of nerfs up here, and now after the Phoenix Crow skin was added, he became really, really bad because of all those nerfs. So there's a wall of buffs here. We're just gonna go through it really quickly. They buffed his supercharge rate just a little bit. It used to be a lot better than this. It used to be like 5 hits or 4 hits to get your super. Now it's 8 from 9, which 8 is better than 9, but it's definitely not better than 4. And Crow was still weak because of all of his damage nerfs and all of his supercharge rate nerfs, so they decreased his reload speed just a little bit. And since he was still weak after those 2 buffs, they decided to bring his damage back up a little bit, which is a pretty good change because I remember Crow just doing no damage. That was everybody's main complaint. He just couldn't kill people. It was really hard. Then the Gold Mecha and Night Mecha Crow skins were added, along with the Mecha Crow skin itself. So right here we got Mecha Crow, Night Mecha Crow, and Golden Mecha Crow. People were going crazy about these at first. Golden Mecha Crow used to be like really hard to get, so there was always people who would grind really hard for either Gold Mecha Bow or Gold Mecha Crow, and having that was like kind of a flex at the time. Then Crow's Carry-On Crow star power was added, and this is because Crow could not do enough damage to even kill people. He struggled to kill basically anybody, and this was made literally to help that problem. So credit to Kairos time again, but here's the difference of damage before and after you have Carry-On Crow on. You just do a lot more damage when they're under a certain threshold of health. It's literally just to let you kill confirm them. He does like 400 more damage with a full shot if they're under, I think, 50% health. I personally never use this anymore, but at the time it was crazy to have that extra damage on Crow. It was insanely good, but it didn't fix him enough. Over time, Crow got a bunch of different buffs because even after all these things he was getting, there were also other brawlers getting these things as well. Like other brawlers were getting star powers, other brawlers were getting gadgets, and most of these brawlers who were getting these things were just better than Crow. So then these brawlers were getting even better with all these new abilities that they're getting, and obviously other brawlers are getting buffed, maps are being changed, the meta is changing like crazy. And in this meta, Crow was just very, very bad. He struggled to kill people, he struggled to stay alive, he struggled to control anything. He was just not a good brawler. He was F tier pretty much everywhere besides solo showdown. So let's run through this wall of buffs that he got. There's a ton right here. They buffed Extra Toxic to reduce the enemy's damage even more. They buffed Carry-On Crow to make it do even more damage than before. They buffed his damage in general because he was struggling to do damage for both his main attack, super, and his poison. And then they buffed Extra Toxic again because he was still too squishy because so many brawlers could two-shot him and so many brawlers could gadget him to kill him. It was crazy. And not long later, they buffed Extra Toxic again because he was still too squishy. He was still getting one-shotted way too easily. And because Crow was getting killed so easily, they added Defense Booster as one of his gadgets to give him a shield to protect him. But it's not like it is now. No, it was way different before because the shield used to actually be a 60% shield. It was absolutely nuts. It was basically a Rosa shield that you could use on Crow whenever you want to. You could not die when you had this thing on. It was actually insane. And since it was so powerful, soon after, they actually nerfed the amount of times that you can use it. Then Crow and White Crow both got remodeled. This was one of the best remodels in the game, in my opinion. And then Crow got Slowing Toxin, still the best in the game, in my opinion. Everybody knows what this gadget does. You slow your enemies for for quite a while, and it just helps you secure kills super easily. Really OP gadget. But at first, could you believe that they actually thought it needed some type of buff? They actually buffed it from 2.5 seconds, which is what it started at, to 3.5 seconds. But that is not where this ends. Look at this wall of buffs that he gets here. Defense booster gets a rework here, so they bring it back up from 2 to 3 charges, but then they nerf the shield itself from 60% to 40%. And then they buffed Crow's slowing toxin duration from 3.5 seconds to 5 seconds, and they left it like this for a very, very long time. Most of you probably remember this, but just imagine 5 seconds of being slowed by slowing toxin. One of the best slow gadgets in general already. And then obviously Crow's true silver and true gold skins were added, which are this one and this one. Pretty decent skins. Then right here it says that Crow's supercharge rate was slightly increased. I know I was like really happy about this one because I thought his supercharge rate was doo-doo garbage, which it is. But in the same patch, they gave Crow one of the first passives in the game, which is enemies receive less healing while they're poisoned, which I love this passive. It counters healers, and it's really fun to me. And then look at this, even more buffs, because for this entire span of time, okay, before Crow became OP and how he is now, like how you know him right now, before that, he was utterly useless in every mode. I remember this time because Crow was my favorite, and I just couldn't play him. He was so bad. Everybody would clown on you if you took him anywhere besides Showdown because he was just useless. But after all of these buffs and after slowing toxin and just everything that they're giving him, now he's OP finally. And I hope that they don't nerf him to the ground, but they probably will. Either way, they buff extra toxic again to 25% from 20%. And then they also buffed Carry On Crow. So they buff his star powers like crazy. Don't really know why, but I mean, I'll take it. Then there's just like a bunch of random stuff like skins getting new effects, his class being changed, and Captain Crow, which is this decent skin right here. Not really my favorite. And then they fix an issue where Crow T-poses after attacking, but I don't think that they really fixed that. There's still another bug that hasn't been fixed yet. So if I get my super with Crow real quick, and then I use it, and then I believe if I like attack immediately after, then I'll start doing a shuffle walk. Yeah, look at how I'm walking. I'm walking like a weirdo. He's not supposed to walk like this. Like his arms are down. Usually his arms are out. Oh my gosh, yeah. There was also a bug where Captain Crow's poison would stack. So if you had that skin selected, for some reason, your poison would stack like Byron. It's really weird. I don't even know if I got to try that out. And one of the final changes here is Crow's slowing toxin got a 2-second nerf to how it is today. And ever since then, nothing else has been changed about Crow. I personally hope that nothing does get changed, but I have a feeling that they might nerf slowing toxin again. And if they do, then they're either going to bring it back to how it was when it first released, or they're going to make it even worse than its first release, which is going to be kind of interesting to see. And the last thing here is Crowbone was added. My personal favorite skin in the entire game. Like, look at it, dude. It's so good. Yeah, Crow had a really long history. He had ups and big downs and then a big up at the very end, and now he's still good. So I don't think that that's really going to change at all, unless for some reason they start hating him and they just hammer him with nerfs. But I was there for Crow's entire history from the very beginning of the game, and that just makes this brawler even more of my favorite. Like, I don't think that there's a way that I could pick a different brawler above this one. There was one moment where I liked Stu a little bit more because I predicted him coming to the game like 1-to-1, but I went back to Crow being my favorite after I got bored of Stu. Like, Crow is just so fun. I have a long history with this brawler, and he's also really good, which is a great plus. So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, use code NUBS. I know it's a kind of different video than I usually make, especially even different than my other history videos, but this feels more natural to me. I feel like I'm not switching up my style too much for this. So yeah, I'll see you later. Goodbye.